Paul, and then Sinead.
Yeah, it's recording. We're off.
How's it going, everybody? This is Hector O. I hope you're safe and well during lockdown. On this Friday morning, I'm delighted to talk to an old school friend, a Navan man who's living in Galway. His name is Paul Mee. Paul, are you there?
I am, Hector. Good morning to you.
How's it going, my friend?
I'm well, thank you, and thank you for doing this.
No problem. Look, at the book is getting pride of place here on my kitchen table. And the book, we have to go, without a book, you have to have a publisher. I'd like to welcome Marguerite Tonery. Hi, Marguerite, are you there?
I'm here, Hector. Thanks for having me.
No problem. From Tribes Press, a great local publishing company, and every book needs a publisher. We'll come to that in a minute. But Paul, I have to ask you, is this the greatest week in your life to see your book finally published, Paul? You can touch it, you can feel it, you can read it. It's out there. How do you feel?
It is very, very exciting, Hector. Yeah, it is fantastic. I would say that this week it's just been great fun. Now, obviously busy doing the work on the side, the real work, but to have the book out finally, and it's been a long time in writing and getting it published. So I'm so happy to have it out there.
Paul, it's a dream that a lot of people can't achieve. When did the first idea enter your head that you wanted to write a book? Did you always want to write a book?
Yeah, I did. The incident actually goes back to St. Pat's in Navan, which you'd know well, and it sort of shows how a good teacher could influence your life. So we'd written an essay for Intercert English, Father Dooley, who I don't know if he taught you or not.
I remember Father Dooley.
Remember Father Dooley, really nice man. So he had all the essays anyway. We gave them to him, and he marked them over the weekend. But on the Monday morning, he decided to read out my essay, and you know, I think the class received it well. I mean, they could have been mesmerized or asleep. You know, it's sometimes hard to tell in St. Pat's which it was. But he read it out, and I was really excited by the fact that he read it out. And that sort of is a thought that stayed with me forever. Another thing I learned from that was about researching your facts, probably, because at one point he got to the end of the story, and let's say my hero, we'll call him Hector for argument's sake, he was being pursued by his nemesis, we'll call him Tommy for argument's sake. So at the climatic scene, I wrote that Hector takes out an SRN and points it at Tommy to scare him off. Now, I meant to write SLR, which is self-loading rifle. Unfortunately, an SRN is a state-registered nurse. So Father Dooley gave me a big slagging about that in the class. But it struck me forever. Then every now and again, it'd pop into my head to say, God, you know, I'd love to write a book. And eventually I did.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's an important point what you spoke about. And in the current climate where we are now, sometimes, I mean, schools, we undervalue and underappreciate the brilliant work that they do, and that the statement you made that if you have one teacher that makes an imprint, or there's always hopefully one teacher in any child or teenager's life that will invigorate them to do things in later life. And I think that's an important statement that we should never forget from a teacher that inspires. Inspire is the word to write, because you're after doing something years and years later that I'm sure Father Dooley will be delighted to be reading now.
I would hope so. I would hope so. And the poor man must be dead at this stage. But I would hope that, yeah, if he was alive, or if he is alive, he actually would be pleased with himself. But yeah, that's where the idea to become a writer came from.
The whole process, Paul. I mean, I can make a TV show, a half-hour TV show in 4 days. I can make an hour-long TV show in the middle of Africa in 8 days. That's give or take 10 or 12 hours filming every day. Tell me about, you know, these are almost like the pub questions about a book. How long does it take, and has it taken, to write the daily?
I did it in my spare time. So it was hobby writing, Hector. So it probably took about 4 years. Thereabouts.
What?
Yeah, 4 years.
4 years?
4 years, yeah. Because you're doing like an hour here and there, and at the weekends you'd be doing a bit, you know, and it just takes a long time to get it right. So from the nucleus of the idea, which maybe I'll come back to in a second, to when I got it finished and when I met Marguerite in January, it took about 4 years to write it. So
Wow.
a little bit slower than you making your half-hour TV program.
That's incredible, but it just gives people a perception of the amount of work that goes into it. I want to bring Marguerite in here from Tribes Press. Marguerite, do you, when you get sent, did you get sent a load of files, or how does it come into you? Does he send you a photocopy stapled together, or with paper
No, I
clips?
don't accept it. We're an eco-conscious book publisher in Galway City, so we're going out of our way to do everything eco-friendly. All our books are sustainable paper. Everything we do is eco-friendly. So in order for a person to send in their manuscript, it has to be a digital file because we don't want wasted paper. We're trying to be as eco-friendly as possible. So it's a digital file. You sent it in as a Word doc, as far as I know. A corrupt Word doc at the time that I nearly strangled him for, but a Word doc nonetheless.
Allegedly.
We won't even go there if you knew what was going on behind the scenes. But it came in. It was good read. You know, I handed it to my chief editor, who's Claudia Bauch, and she's crazy about sci-fi. I'm a fantasy adventure series person. I write fantasy adventure stories. Sci-fi wouldn't be my thing. The genre, it's for certain people, and Claudia absolutely loved it. So once she got her hands on it, she wanted to progress this book. So it took a lot of work. A lot of work went into the editing and the proofreading and that. Isn't that right, Paul? There were a huge number of changes. Not change, but the detail. We're awful conscious about the detail here in Tribes Press. We want to get it right. If you can get the detail right, the book is rich for it. You know, it's better for it.
I think Marguerite's being polite. I'd say I probably was a bit of a pain because the guys would send me back a version, with suggested changes, and then I'd send back the version with 3,000 words added every time. So eventually they had to stop the process and said, look, no more changes. We're going to have a book that's 300,000 words long in 10 years time if you don't stop editing this thing. I would say that what I gave in to the guys was about 85% right. And that extra 15% that the guys added was phenomenal. I mean, they tightened up the book. They challenged me. They asked me the right questions. If it didn't work for them, they wouldn't allow it through. So I had to go and change it. And it was a good process. The book is much, much better now.
Marguerite, can I ask you on that? Because hopefully when people see this a viral launch or this Zoom call we're doing about the Daisy creation, about Paul, his first ever book, how many emails do you get a week, or how many people will send you manuscripts of possible books per month? Are you sifting through them all the time?
Yeah, we are. And there's a lot that we won't take because there's no point in us taking in a book that we don't. I thought when I started, honest to God, Hector, when I started, I thought everybody could write. I thought everybody could write. They can't. And that was one thing that struck me about it. Not everybody can write, no matter how hard they try. So it is a skill set. And I think when you watch the way a person speaks, everybody speaks differently, even though they're speaking the English language. So when you watch how a person speaks, you have a good idea about how they write.
Yes.
So the standard of their writing. So it's quite an interesting process, but we get a lot of manuscripts come in. There are many we have to reject. There's some we keep. We had our second birthday in lockdown, so we're a very new book publisher, and we're still in this pandemic times. We're fighting for survival, So there are manuscripts coming in, but we're very particular about the books that we allow to go through because we want the best for the author, so we push them to their limit, but we also, because we want this book to sell, we don't want to produce a bad book. You want a book that will sell, and you want a book that is at the highest possible standard, to give that author the best possible chance, So
yeah, I just on that, I know when I'm making a TV show with Roscoe, my cameraman, and Evan, the producer, and I know when my interview or the place we're going to, wherever it is, I know if it's going well, and I know if the shot looks really great, or if I know something really cool is happening on camera. I know we have that moment
Yeah.
And that will hopefully in months later go on the screen, and then I will see people's reaction to that moment. Did you know when you opened up the book on page 1 and part Genesis of creation and then the progress report and you go straight in, do you know from the first line, Yalir was not happy, he was commuting to work on a Monday morning, squashed into a crowd and stuffy? Did you know from those moments? Wow.
You know from the first paragraph how if it's going to work. You know by how it makes you feel. It's not necessarily about it's the words, but it's how it makes you feel. It's like that time when you see something, a conversation that's working. Why is it working? Because the way it makes you feel. You know this is it.
Yes.
And it's the same with books, and it's the same with deity creation and all of the books we have. It's just how it makes you feel, and the command of the English language, or what stands out more for books is the honesty of the author. If the author is an honest author, they're okay with who they are if they bare their soul, because basically you have to bare your soul, and if you don't bare your soul, the book won't survive. The book will not float. And literally you're baring your soul. You're saying, this is me, this is who I am. You're giving it to the world and say, judge me at will, which is quite a scary thing, because you don't know how people are going to react. You don't know how it'll be received, but you're doing it. And it's a very scary journey, and it takes a huge amount of courage for an author to do that. And we won't let someone down in that process. You know, we get the best from that author and the best quality book that author can give, but it's only certain authors who'll get through that phase too. But you know from the first paragraph, is it just doing something? Is it stirring something inside you? And if it's stirring something inside you, yeah, they have it. And honesty is the biggest thing from an author. If you cannot feel pain, or if you don't want to feel your pain or your anger or your frustration or your love or your passion for whatever it is you do in life, you can't put it onto the page. So if you have an emotion that you're willing to feel, the emotion will never be on the page. And unless you can go to those places in yourself, it's lost. So it's about honesty mostly.
That's a fair point. I think you can take that into every mark of anybody's work, if you work with a passion and an energy. Paul, what was the call like when you got a call from Tribes Press to say, yes, we're giving you the green light? How did you feel? Were you in the kitchen making dinner when you got a call from Marguerite or from the chief editor, Paul?
I actually went down to meet Marguerite in January of this year, and I gave the book in, and I'd emailed it in, as Marguerite said, and Marguerite read the first paragraph, and she got it. And to be fair, you know, it is a challenging book when you think of the subject matter, you know, of what I'm talking about. You know, you have to handle it quite carefully, because you know, I am in effect retelling the Bible story, but I'm sort of using the premise that, you know, there was an alien presence on Earth, and I'm not talking like green blobs with stalks sticking out of them, but aliens very similar to ourselves physically, who are on Earth, and they've been engaging in a series of societal and behavioral experiments for years and years and years, and creating a religion is something that they just decided to do, you know, because they could, and you know, so it's you know, to that extent, it's I don't know if the word controversial, but it could be perceived by some people as quite a controversial topic. But it's not meant to be written that way. The idea actually came from Life of Brian, the Monty Python classic film. You know, what have the Romans ever done for us? Which I think is one of the funniest scenes ever, especially when you've gone back to St. Pat's, when you've done Latin in St. Pat's. It brings back a lot of stuff. But the actual genesis, the idea was in the Life of Brian. Brian is running up a tower chased by a couple of Roman soldiers. He gets to the top and falls off. And somewhat fortuitously, there's an alien spaceship going underneath, and he lands in it. The alien spaceship shoots off into orbit, engages with another alien spaceship in a firefight, crashes back down to Earth at terminal velocity. He gets out of the spaceship, dusts himself off. The bystander says, "Lucky bastard." And off he goes. And honestly, that was the idea. And someone said, what if there were aliens on Earth at the time? And what if they were interfering? And what if they were planning, you know, to create a religion along with a whole series of other experiments? So the book it's a faithful it's a retelling of the Bible story, but all the set pieces are then driven by aliens interfering in what's going on. So, for example, the first miracle in the Bible is turning the water into wine at the wedding feast in Cana. So what I had to do was try and work out a way where the aliens could actually do that in the course of the book. And without giving too much away, the reason why they had no miracles planned as part of their overall planning, because they reckoned they were too complex. But Deborah, the mother of the bride, and Mary get into a bit of an argument. And eventually Mary just says, right, my son is the Son of God. Of course he can turn the water into wine. And then goes and tells Jesus he has to do it. And that's where the aliens go, oh, well, we have to do this now. So they have half an hour in which to organize the turning of water into wine, and the chaos that ensues from that. So there's maybe 5 or 6 key set pieces in the Bible, and it's working in the alien presence into how they actually do all of the things that happen in the Bible. So but it's lighthearted. It is fun. It's meant to be funny. My mother wouldn't be impressed, God rest her, by the whole thing. But anyway, that's if the expression "turning in your grave" was invented for anything, it would be this. I suspect that if she was alive, she wouldn't be overly impressed by it.
So it's a sci-fi religious book. Would that be the apt title for this?
It's sci-fi, alternate history, maybe social commentary type of book. Because Marguerite will emphasize this too. When you write a book, you have to challenge the reader. So you have to sort of put in some ideas in there. So, towards the end of the book, one of the characters is sort of congratulating themselves for forming this religion and say, isn't this great? We have a religion where peace and love and happiness, and let's all be nice to each other, and you go, yeah, well, that's absolutely fine. And then one of the other characters' line is, he says, well, I think actually, minding and nurturing this religion is going to place too much of a burden on humankind, and they will end up corrupting it. So I try to throw a few thoughts like that into the reader's mind. I don't develop the thought enormously because I'm not trying to preach to people. But when someone reads that, they go, yeah, is that what happened? Have we, corrupted, what was given to us as something that was supposed to be a really good thing? Have we corrupted it that it's no longer a good thing? So I challenge the readers by asking them questions like that in the course of writing. But I would describe it as, instead of like thumping them in the head with the point, it's sort of a gentle tap where you go, think about that, and hopefully they will.
Yeah, because we're at a pretty strange junction, aren't we, with religion and the way the world is, and with the political way the world is. There's a lot of extremes in the world at the moment, isn't there? Extreme politics, extreme climate, extreme views, extreme religion, extreme nastiness, extreme everything, isn't there? Do you think, I sometimes say the world is broken at the moment in so many ways. What's your view on that after writing a book like this, and your take on that?
I would agree with you, and the book is sort of hinting at that. It's sort of saying, the aliens have interfered in our society, and religion is just part of one of those things. But the book addresses some of the points of saying, well, other things that are going on. So there's a whole series of experiments, none of which are discussed in detail in the book, where you have misogyny, is also mentioned in the book as one of the things that the aliens are deliberately trying to create. So again, I'm trying, and it's actually in my second book that's developed a lot further. But the book is trying to say, think about it. What sort of society have we created? And should we really think about where we are and where we're going? And I'm not saying this book is going to change the world, but it is challenging the readers to think about things. So if you want to, you could just read the book as a story and just get to the end and say, fine. But hopefully when you read some things, you go, yeah, actually, that's an interesting point. And it might change people's viewpoints ever so slightly, hopefully.
Are you a sci-fi head, Paul? Who are the type of people out there that are going to love this book, do you think? Who's your target audience?
Yeah, I think sci-fi fans will really enjoy it, but it's not a really hard sci-fi. Like, there's no massive amount of science in it. It's all very easily read and accessible for a reader. So I think it will go outside the sci-fi genre. Also, it's written deliberately with no bad language in it. So I'd like to see young adults reading it as well. So I would have said and anybody from 13 upwards would be well able to read the book and get something out of it. But it is in case people think it's really heavy, it isn't. It's actually written very much tongue in cheek. There's a lot of humor in it. My wife, who I admit is completely biased because she's my wife, was reading it in bed over the last few nights, and every now and again she'd burst out laughing. So I took that as a good sign that she was actually enjoying it.
Inside my husband's mind.
Pardon, Marguerite, say again?
This is what goes on inside my husband's mind. I never knew what he was thinking all along.
There probably was a little bit of that, all right, in it, yeah, where she was sort of going like, but I think she enjoyed it, and I've had my test readers as well reading it, and all of them have enjoyed it so far. Look, it's the big issue with the books is is trying to get noticed, and like I went through the usual process of writing out to agents and publishers and all that good stuff, and I learned a couple of things from it. Firstly, when I got my first reply, it started off with, "Whilst there's much to admire in your book, it's not quite right for our list." And I went, "Oh, that's very nice of them, that's really dead on. It's much to admire, And the second reply started off with, "There's much to admire in your book, but it's not quite right for our list." And so well, maybe they're friends or something, and they just write the same. When the third one came in with the exact same thing, I quickly realized that it was the publishing equivalent of the PFO. All right. And then I also began to sort of, I think from talking to Marguerite about the percentage of books that get published and getting noticed is practically impossible, because, and I know you enjoy the horses, Hector. So it'll be like, you standing at the Galway plate looking, to pick your winner, and someone walking up to you and saying, "Hey, Hector, I have a great tip for the next race." And you say, "All right, Joe, well, give me the info." You say, "Okay, well, look, firstly, the jockey, right? Jockey's never ridden a race in his life. Never, ever." You go, "Oh, I'm not very comfortable about that." Well, what about the horse? The horse has never been in a race in its life. So what are the odds? That's about 2,000 to 1. Yeah, okay. I'm not really sure about that, to be honest with you. So you have a jockey who has no experience on a horse that has no experience. And I think the publishing is sort of broadly the same, where the publishers are looking for a sure bet. They want the 5 to 1 shot, the 6 to 1 shot. They don't want the 200 to 1 outsider because there's too much of a risk, and they don't want to put their investment in it. So in order to get one of the mainstream massive publishers on board, I think it's almost impossible unless you've written something that is in the top 0.001% of stuff ever written. So Marguerite's company fulfill a gap where people back themselves and say, "Do you know what? I actually think what I've written is good." And I hope that doesn't sound egotistical, but when I finished it, I sort of said, "This isn't bad. I think this might get somewhere, But you had no avenue for it because you were told to, PFO by everybody. So I went down to Marguerite, and Marguerite gave me a shot and read through it and said, "Yeah, I like this." And she was the first person who actually read the first paragraph and said, "I think there's something in this." And away we went. And hopefully both of us will be proven right. And in a year's time, I don't have a big, large collection of books sitting in my garage, being used as a firelighter because there's nothing else to do with them. Hopefully that won't happen.
Make sure you keep about 10 copies for yourself or friends, because they'll always ask you. Marguerite, can I just talk to you about the process now for Deity Creation? Is it on the shelves? Is it online? Marguerite, tell me about that, you as a publisher at Tribes Press, getting the book out there.
So we have a very big team behind us of marketing people. So it's in social media. A lot of the things with bookshops at the moment is many of the bookshops are closed. So what we're doing is, until the bookshops open, we're driving the campaign online. So it's buy online through tribespress.com. We have our own online shop there with all of our books on it. So it's just buy online at the moment, buy local, support Irish author, Irish book publisher, support, this is what we're driving at the moment. And so his book, Deity Creation, Paul Mee's book, is available at tribespress.com/shop. And we push that out across social media. It's great to have you, it's such a coup here having Hector O, the man himself.
I'm delighted to be having an old school friend. It's just, what an achievement.
They say it's better to be born lucky than to be born rich. We must have been born lucky here, Paul.
No. You see, all the great Mead men moved to the west of Ireland. That's what's happened.
Is that it? Okay.
That is exactly it. I shared a post on LinkedIn last night, and I sort of said two Navan men discussing a book, somewhat tongue in cheek, and I got a few responses back from people saying, "I bet that's never happened before."
Oh yeah.
It was a bit harsh.
So it goes online. It's online sales at the moment, Marguerite. It's out there at the moment. It can be purchased.
Yep, tribespress.com. Get online and we deliver it right to your door. And we have a special thing for seniors in Galway. So if you're a senior and you want to have a look at this deity creation, what this man did to your religion or what he's talking about, is a really good book, and it's quite an interesting take on things. And if you wanted to read it and you want to get out there and see it and just have a sneak peek as an 80-year-old looking at these things, what's the new generation writing about our religion? Well, free delivery to seniors in Galway City. So, so we're doing our best to support as many people as we can. We're doing our best to support Irish authors. Once the bookshops are back open again, we'll be sending it into all the bookshops. But at the moment, it's just driving online sales like every other business in the country is. It's just the nature of a lockdown. But it's a fantastic achievement for Paul. It's an incredible book. It really is a good book, and it's a very interesting read. It's funny in places. It's strange in other places, like all sci-fis. But it's a fantastic book. It took a lot of work to get it to this point, and well done to Paul on doing that. It's an incredible achievement to get your book out there. He has a legacy now. This will be left behind for generations to see.
Yeah,
you know?
and the second one finished as well.
Good man.
That's what I was going to ask you, Paul. Will there be a sequel to Deity Creation?
It's 95% done, and it's been edited by Tribespress as well, by Claudia, who is a superb editor. So yeah, it is in the bag. So I'm hoping that there's enough interest in the first one to sort of generate this, the publishing the second one. So that all depends on everybody going out and buying it, Hector.
Paul, that's when are you going to leave the real job? I mean, you're an accountant by trade, and you're a novelist and a writer at night. Come on, ditch that accountancy and get into show business. This is the real world, Paul. Are you going to ditch the real job and get into this?
I think we might need a few more sales yet, Hector, before I make that leap. Or else I'll be moving into your garden in a tent, saying to you, well, that was a great idea, Hector, and now you're suffering for that one.
Can I ask you, Paul, about the print? I mean, how many copies of this are available? It's your first ever book. Did you run a print? Like, what is achievable? What would you love to see happening? Because we can drive this now online and it's out there. Is there 20,000 copies of it out there? Or what's your first level, your first target?
I'd like to get to 1,000 books. After that, then I'd use the analogy of my book is like a rock at the top of a hill, and we're all giving it a bit of a push, and it's beginning to sort of start to go, and if we can just give it a little bit of extra push, and once it gets a bit of momentum, you don't know where it would end up, and that's right now. We're just trying to get that bit of momentum, get it out there, get people seeing it, which is difficult, as Marguerite said, with the bookshops closed, but hopefully it will get that momentum, and
it's word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
I would love the idea that someone who maybe had a bad day in the office or in work or whatever they would do, and they had bought the book and they sat down in the evening by the fire and they had a glass of wine and the book cheered them up. They read for an hour and it just took them away from some of the stuff that happened during the day. That's what I would love to happen. And it's written like that. It is a funny book. It's escapism. It is a bit of crack. Gets a bit dark towards the end, but it is good fun. And that's what I'd love. And I'd also love where, people, not that we can go into pubs, but if people could sit, a couple of people who had read the book, even in the pub, had an argument over what it was trying to say. I'd love that to happen. It'd be fantastic. That's my aim. It's very nerve-wracking putting it out to the public, but I'm hoping the public will love it, and please God they do.
Very good. Just 3 quick questions. Is there life on Mars?
In the sense of small microbes, possibly yes. Anything else, I would suspect not.
Have you ever seen a UFO?
Not while sober.
Do you believe in aliens?
I don't believe that aliens have ever visited Earth, but I believe in the wider universe there has to be something else out there. To be honest with you, I would be quite disappointed if humans were the top of the food chain in the universe. I would hope that there are people out there who are significantly more advanced than us, but I don't believe they visited Earth. No, definitely not.
Paul Mee, the author of Deity Creation, you have 30 seconds to tell me about your book, and your time starts. This is your chance to sell it to me. This is Dragon's Den. 30 seconds to sell it to me and to Marguerite like she's never heard about the book before at Tribes Press. Tell me why we should read this book. What is Deity Creation?
You should read the book because it's great fun, very humorous, and it's a alternative take on the Bible story, and you will love it. Pure and simple. You will love it. I really honestly believe that anybody who buys the book will get a great experience out of it and will have a bit of crack.
Marguerite, you have seen thousands of manuscripts at Tribes Press. Tell me why people should buy this book, Deity Creation.
It sets itself apart from all the other sci-fi books that you've read about religion or aliens that have come in and transformed spirituality, religion, anything you can think of along about those lines. It's not a book for young children. It's a book for an adult. It's a book for a grown-up. That a grown-up has a genuine book that they can question all the things that they grew up with. Because we're not that far from a very religious Ireland, from a very strict religious Christian brother. I went to the school with nuns. We're not that far from it. I'm not that old. You're not that old, Hector. Paul, you're not that old either. So we're not that far from all of this. And it's interesting for our generation to sit and read this and laugh and think, yeah, this guy is kind of questioning things that we've been questioning, but not been able to question to the generation that was that brought us into this world, you know. So it's a good, fun book for our generation. It's a really good book, I think, but for an adult, 18 on, I would say. So get your hands on this book. Buy it for the love of your life for Christmas. It's a nice book to buy for somebody for Christmas. You always want to think of something for Christmas. This is it.
Very good. Marguerite Tonery from Tribes Press, congratulations and well done on being sort of a local publisher, keeping it alive in the west of Ireland and publishing, giving people a chance to publish their books. It's very, very important that publishers like you are out there. Paul Mee, congratulations. I hope the two biggest aliens on the planet are now removed over the next few weeks. One of them will be removed once he loses Georgia and Pennsylvania. And the other one, Boris, will be removed, and both of them will be put on a spaceship and sent back out there. Paul, once more, congratulations. Thanks, on your book. Well done on writing your first ever book, and I hope there are many, many more to come. Congratulations on Deity Creation.
Thanks, Hector, and again, thank you very much for doing this for me.
No problem. Up the Royals.
All right. See you, Marguerite.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks, Hector. Bye-bye.
Stay safe. Bye.